What if Pixar characters were gym leaders? First up, we got Grandpa from Up. He's gonna start off with a Cramorant based on the bird from Up, Kevin. Then, look at all those balloons. If you zoom in, you can see Carl's Pokemon, Drifloon, help carrying the house up. Now, Carl might be a flying type gym leader, but he has his dog Yamper watching the entire time. After you beat him, he gets angry, thinking you're a squirrel, and jumps into the battle, and you have to beat him. The second gym leader is Mike Wazowski. His gym is all about scaring you with dark type Pokemon. First up, Impidimp. Their Pokédex says that they live in groups, pestering and playing pranks on each other to polish their troublemaking skills. Tell me that doesn't sound perfect. We then have Scraggy. It will abruptly headbutt anyone that makes eye contact with it. Its skull is extremely hard. Watch out. And finally, a Dino. Then we battle our rival of the Pixar League for the first time, Nemo. He has Pokemon inspired by all the friends he made in the deep blue sea. Starting off with a Horsey, inspired by his friend Sheldon. His second Pokemon is Staryu, inspired by his friend Peach. And finally, a Wartortle, of course, inspired by Squirt. We then move on to the third gym leader, Flick from A Bug's Life. He's a fire type gym leader. No, of course he's a bug type gym leader. He starts off with a Sizzlipede, followed by Ledian. Ledian flies through the sky, sprinkling sparkly dust. And according to some people, if that dust sticks to you, good things will happen, so Flick is feeling good. We then have his ace Pokemon, of course, Durant. With their large mandibles, these Pokemon can crunch their way through rock, helping out Flick with all of his adventures. They also work together to protect their eggs from Sandacondas. Flick is all about working together, so this Durant's gonna work perfectly. We move on to the fourth gym leader, Miguel from Coco, with his ghost type team inspired by the holiday Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead is all about celebrating the people close to you that have sadly passed away. The first Pokemon is Houndstone. A lovingly mourned Pokemon was reborn as Houndstone. Doesn't that sound perfect? We then have Gourgeist. Pumpkins are associated with the Day of the Dead. They're served both as tasty dishes and celebratory decorations. Then finally, a Cofagrigus. According to the Pokédex, there are many depictions of Cofagrigus decorating ancient tombs. How cool! After beating Miguel, he invites you to a performance where he and his partner Pokemon Toxtricity are playing the guitar. How fun. We then move on to the fifth gym, Mater, who is, of course, a steel type. Starting off with his Klinklang, of course, cars need gears to go around, folks, so Klinklang helps there. We then have Earthworm. I feel like this Pokemon just kind of has the vibes of Mater. This Pokemon lives in arid desert. It maintains its metal body by consuming iron from the soil. So when Mater eventually kicks the can, if you will, Earthworm can eat up Mater and live longer. So, you know, it's all about recycling here. We then have Klefki. What car doesn't need keys? In the past, noble families entrusted their keys to Klefki. I don't know if Mater belongs to a noble family, but he deserves it. Come on now. And finally, his ace Pokemon, a Revavroom. Come on now, the car Pokemon. Then move on to Remy, who has a normal type Pokemon inspired by fellow rodents. Of course, a Watchog. After Watchog, we have Greedent. Greedent's all about food and eating food, and Remy loves to feed his Greedent. We then have, of course, Raticate, the rat Pokemon. And his final Pokemon is an Oinkologne. You can make a good dish out of Oinkologne, let's be real here. As you battle Remy, he has his partner Pokemon, El Creamy and Doxbun, watching from the sides. How cool. We then move on to the seventh gym leader, Merida, who's a grass type trainer. She starts off with Meowscarada. Meowscarada is a magician, so it kind of gives like the witch magical vibes of the movie. We then have Sawsbuck. I feel like it's just kind of living in the forest, hanging out with Merida. We then have Trevenant. Now in Brave, Merida spends some time in a magical forest, and Trevenant lives there. Trevenant, according to the Pokédex, is very kind of Pokemon living in the forest. It doesn't even care if these Pokemon take up residence residence in its greenery on its head. Gonna be a very tough Pokemon to battle here. We then have Brambleghast. This is kind of the closest grass-type Pokemon I could find to the Wisps in the movie Brave, and it's a formidable foe. We then move on to our ace Pokemon. Who else but Decidueye? It is a master at archery and will definitely help Merida in her bow and arrow adventures. We then move on to the final gym leader, Joe from Soul. Joe is our only gym leader who doesn't have a specific type, just has a bunch of musical Pokemon. I feel like it fits perfectly. They can play music with them while they're battling you. First, we have Primarina. Now, according to Primarina, every battle is a stage. It even takes down its prey with beautiful singing and dancing. I feel like Primarina and Joe can make a great collab. We then have Chimecho. It cries echoes through its hollow body to emerge as beautiful notes, startling and repelling foes. Then Altaria. Now, Altaria might not seem like a musical Pokemon, but it is. On sunny days, it flies freely through the sky and blends into the clouds. It sings in a beautiful soprano. We got a really good band coming along here. We then have Maractus. It makes noises that could be mistaken for rattles and maracas, and it creates an upbeat rhythm, startling bird Pokemon and making them fly off in a hurry. Scaring off flying Pokemon is perfect for Maractus, since it's of course weak to flying types. And finally, Joe's ace Pokemon. You might think I'm crazy for having a mythical Pokemon for an 8th gym leader, but I think Joe deserves it. Meloetta. The melodies sung by Meloetta have the power to make Pokemon that hear them happy or sad, and it's gonna make your Pokemon sad since it's gonna defeat them. After defeating Joe, our rival challenges us for a final battle before we get into the Elite Four and Champion. It's Nemo. Its Horsey has evolved into a Kingdra, Staryu has evolved into a Starmie, and of course, Squirt, who is a Wartortle, is now a big Blastoise. But Nemo has 3 more Pokemon inspired by his friends. First, Octillery, who you could say is inspired by either Pearl or Hank. Then we got Mr. Ray, of course, is a Mantine, and his ace Pokemon is a Floatzel. Floatzel gives Nemo vibes, it has a similar color scheme, and it also gives adventurous vibes. After beating our rival, we are now entering the Elite Four. We now challenge Mike Wazowski, who is back and better than ever, fully evolving all of his Dark-type Pokemon. First, we challenge his Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl is gonna be a challenge since it's gonna put up some light screens and reflects that will make the rest of the battle very difficult. We then have Scrafty, who is stronger than ever. Then we have a really big issue, Hydreigon. Now that's gonna be hard to beat. Mike Wazowski now has 2 new Pokemon, Galarian Obstagoon. Ooh, this is gonna be a challenge, but not as much as his final Pokemon, a Guzzlord. Ooh, that's gonna be tough. We then face off a Psychic type Elite Four member, Violet, who has a bunch of Pokemon that have strong psychic powers. Starting off with Gardevoir, followed by Gothitelle, a Delphox, ooh, some firepower in there, then a very scary Pokemon, Hatterene, and the final Pokemon, a Farigiraf. Then we face off against Ember from Elemental. Now, of course, she's gonna be a Fire-type Elite Four member, and her Pokemon are specifically Fire-type Pokemon that are always on fire, leading with a Rapidash, then a Centiskorch, a Magcargo, then a Magmortar, and her ace Pokemon, Typhlosion. We then face off against Woody, who does not have a specific type, but has a farm-based cowboy type of team, leading with his Mudsdale, who he rides into the battle with, then a Tauros, followed by a Miltank, and a Cacturne, who kind of represents a scarecrow, lives in the desert kind of vibe. I love Cacturne. His ace Pokemon is a great fighter, and a chicken, which can be found on a farm, Blaziken. Then it's time to face off against our champion. And I feel like this champion is going to be a tough one to beat. Good luck, folks. We're having Mr. Incredible, who leads with a Buzzwole. Buzzwole goes around showing off its abnormally swollen muscles. And let's be honest, Mr. Incredible, he's got some big muscles too. Then we have Incineroar. Incineroar loves to fight. I feel like it's a great fighter for Mr. Incredible. Also add some firepower to it. Then I feel like Mr. Incredible needs a pseudo-legendary. And I feel like Dragonite kind of gives that dad vibe. You know, like, I'm going to be there for you and we're going to make this work. Thank you, Mr. Incredible. Then we got Mega Manectric. Yes, Mr. Incredible does have a Mega Charm, and he's ready to use it. Mr. Incredible is said to have super speed, and Mega Manectric is one of the fastest Pokemon ever. Then we have Slacking, who just gives big dad vibes. It also has one of the highest attack stats out of any Pokemon, and Mr. Incredible has superhuman strength, so that's perfect. And then his ace Pokemon, the perfect hero Pokemon, it's Palafin. This hero of the ocean swims at a speed of 50 knots and saves drowning people and Pokemon. He's the superhero. Come on now. After beating Mr. Incredible, you've officially become the champion of the Pixar League. Woohoo! Congrats! Comment down below which series or movie I should do next. I already did an Inside Out League, so if you want to go watch that, go check it out right now. It was a lot of fun. And comment down below which one I should do next.